The views expressed on this program are those of the producers and individuals appearing on this program and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Sun Prairie Media Center staff, its video service providers, or the staff and elected officials of the City of Sun Prairie.
Why, hello there. Welcome to Real Reviews. My name is Jamison Rabbit, and this week I'm so happy to be joined by the modern-day Gene Shalit. His name is Jeff Robbins. Welcome back, sir.
I don't have the frizzy hair or the big mustache or any of that.
No, it's more of the aura of Gene Shalit that you have encapsulated.
Because I have
It's a compliment.
a lot of puns.
Oh,
I use a lot of
wacky
puns in my reviews.
Yeah.
Okay, well, you'll hear some of those later.
Oh, I can't wait.
You're looking very summery today.
It's summer, man. It's June. It's summer movie season. We're talking about the season's first summer blockbuster.
Oh, it's a blockbuster.
So I figured, why not? Let's.
I think at this point, everybody that wants to see this movie has seen it. So what's the point of even talking about it?
I've seen it a couple times.
Couple times.
Yeah,
Oh, there you
yeah.
go.
So let's get right into it. The big movie.
It's too complicated the first time. You had to watch it again.
I did. Yeah, I didn't quite understand what was going on. So the planes go this way. Of course, we are starting off on the marquee with Top Gun Maverick, the sequel that has been long in the making. 36 years after the original, Maverick is back in the danger zone. This film had a long journey, and it was very important to Mr. Tom Cruise that this film be seen in theaters, so it kept getting pushed back. Of course, Tom Cruise returns as the titular character of Pete Maverick Mitchell. He has been a test pilot for the Navy over the years. He has seen his antics keep him from advancing up the ranks. He's been a career Navy pilot, but he is still Captain Pete Mitchell. He's burned most of his bridges, but thankfully his old buddy Iceman is now an admiral of the Pacific Fleet and has been bailing him out of trouble. Maverick finds himself getting one more shot at redemption this film as he is sent back to Top Gun to teach a new group of Top Gun pilots how to fly the F-18 into an actual real-world mission, because Maverick is one of the few who have actually had to dogfight since 1986. And so we really introduce a lot of new hotshot pilots, including a female pilot, Phoenix, a new hotshot big talker guy by the name of Hangman. But more ominously for Mav, there's Rooster, played by Miles Teller, who is the son of Maverick's co-pilot Goose, who you know, of course, was tragically lost in the first film.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, watch out. Maverick is still dealing with the guilt and the trauma over losing Goose and really the lost relationship that he's had with Goose's son. And you kind of pieced out why that relationship is the way it is. But this film is really about the flight footage. It's about the effects. There's a lot of nostalgia. You see scenes here where they call back to like the volleyball scene. And a lot of the scenes, you know, but you get some Kenny Loggins going right away. It's a lot of that nostalgia, but it's a big blockbuster. And of course, you have to have, you know, a guy to replace Tom Skerritt as the hard-nosed boss. This time it's John Hamm, is a guy named Cyclone, who doesn't believe in Maverick, but he's giving him this one last chance because Iceman told him he had to. Speaking of Iceman, we also get some Iceman in this movie, which was
Sure do.
nice to see. But I feel like this movie, we got to see more of a balance for the character of Maverick. He still has that braggadocio spirit of a fighter pilot, but a little more balanced, a little more subdued, a little more facing reality and where he is in his life and his career. Mm-hmm. It's interesting. You know, he knows what these young pilots are in for, and he doesn't really want to put them into it. And of course, one last character, can't fail to mention, is Jennifer Connelly is in this movie as the love interest, Penny Benjamin, calling back a character who was just referenced for a moment in the original movie.
Right.
Which I did not pick up on. My wife did. She was like, Penny, because she had just watched the original. She's like, that's the Admiral's daughter that he was messing around with. Like, that flew over my head. I did not catch that. Kind of interesting. But first off, your thoughts on the original film, quick, real short. Did you have any love for it, nostalgia for it? Were you excited for this?
I was not anticipating this conversation going this way. I have not seen the original Top Gun.
Oh, interesting.
Yes.
Okay.
I was planning to watch it this week, and I didn't get around to it.
Okay.
So I came into this movie totally cold.
So we're coming at it from different angles. I like
Right,
this.
right.
This is good. So, Tom Cruise, in the fighter jet. How did this work for you as a film?
So there's a scene in this movie where Tom Cruise he's flying this mission just to prove that it can be done. And everybody, the trainees, John Hamm, Charles Parnell, they're watching him. I don't remember if it's through radar, if there's I don't remember how
They're just watching the radar, yeah.
They're watching the radar. Okay, thank you. And of course, we're seeing the footage of Tom Cruise doing this thing. And they take a couple shots of a couple of the pilot students, the trainees, who are sort of in awe of what he's doing, like what he's pulling off. And they're like, oh. And then we cut to Charles Parnell, who's kind of John Hamm's right-hand man.
Yes.
He's just got this big grin on his face. And that's really how I felt this entire time watching this movie. I just had this big dumb grin on my face the entire time. I think it's kind of a miracle how good this movie is.
It's better than it deserves to be.
Exactly. Usually these sequels that come, decades after the fact suck. They're usually money grabs. Some careers are in trouble and they're trying to recapture some past glories or something. I think The Phantom Menace is probably the most obvious example. I think this movie just gets basically everything right. I mean, the aerial scenes are exciting. It's impossible to not find Tom Cruise extremely likable.
Tom Cruise, however you feel about him personally, I think he is the last remaining movie star. You can say what you want about him as an actor, but that guy is a movie star on that screen.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's just hard to not look at him.
I would even go one step beyond. I think this is and it's already proven, but I think this is the movie that's going to get people back in theaters, which it already is.
Yes.
And I think that if I was a 12-year-old and I was sort of jaded about going to a theater and I was watching everything on Netflix at home, I think this is a movie that could really introduce me to kind of the magic of going to a movie theater.
Because you have to see it on the big screen with the sound. Yeah. And I think every screening, they play a little video beforehand of Tom Cruise talking into the camera. Thank you for coming to see this in the theater. It's important to me.
Yeah, we made this for you. I hope you enjoy it. And
it's huge. You can just feel it. It makes it a big movie experience.
I thought that was a little hacky, but then after the movie, I appreciated that message. I thought that he and Jennifer Connelly had good chemistry. I think John Hamm, he kind of just bends that character enough to keep him from being like a stock villain character.
He's perfectly stoic, though.
Yeah.
Like, just enough.
Yeah. And you mentioned the scene like where they, they kind of recall the volleyball from the first movie and they're playing beach football.
Yeah.
Even something dopey like that seems to work.
It does. It shouldn't work.
The only complaint I have about the movie is that maybe they didn't spend quite enough time. You mentioned Phoenix, Hangman. Maybe they didn't spend enough time. Bob. Those characters aren't really fleshed out that much.
Yeah.
Obviously, Rooster's fleshed out a lot more for obvious reasons. But in the end, I think this is Tom Cruise's movie, and he pulls it off.
I think it is basically a perfect blockbuster movie of this type. It blew me away. But there were moments. The footage is amazing, way better than the original.
Yep.
But I got choked up in moments. I was in this movie.
Yeah, me too.
I've seen it twice opening week, and I was in it. And just, it borrows a lot from the original, but it doesn't fall into the trap of just trying to, hey, remember this, remember this. It makes something bigger out of that.
There's obvious nostalgia, even though I haven't seen the first one. I mean, obviously, you get Danger Zone at the beginning. You get a couple.
I mean, I got chills in that opening when they're launching off the flight deck. I'm like, oh, here we go.
Yeah, I mean,
and Miles Teller is an actor who I'm hot and cold on, and I thought he was really good.
He was very good
as Rooster.
Yeah, definitely.
That's interesting.
You got into that. You got into that relationship with him and Cruise for sure.
Yes. Yes. I love that we came at this from two different angles because I have heavy nostalgia. Top Gun was the first movie when I was a kid that my dad took me to, just me and him.
Well, I'm a little embarrassed that I haven't seen it, but when I was that age, I was like comedies. If it's not a comedy, I'm not going to see it.
This was like the first movie I get to go. It's an adult movie. Yeah. We're going, and so heavy nostalgia. But what did you end up giving Top Gun Maverick?
I believe I gave it 4.5 stars, Mr. Rabbit.
Well, you can leave that score right up there because I concur. I gave it 4.5 as well.
Holy moly!
Dang near a perfect action movie. It's so much fun. You have to see it in theaters. I'm probably going to see it again this week because it's just so much fun.
It's definitely worth seeing again.
Speaking of what we have in theaters this week, let's turn to the next movie. What do you have for us?
I've got the Bob's Burgers movie, Mr. Rabbit, based on the long-running, and when I say long-running, 12 seasons of the Fox animated series. The Bob's Burgers movie comes to us from directors Lauren Bouchard, who's also the series creator, and Bernard Derriman. Like the series, this film features the Belcher family, parents Bob and Linda, and kids Tina, Jean, and Louise. Bob and Linda run the seaside restaurant Bob's Burgers. Despite the impending summer season that is typically a boon for the restaurant, all is not well. The bank has turned down their request for a business loan, and they have a week to pay the rent, or Mr. Roper will evict them. Oh, whoops, that's a different sitcom. To make matters worse, an enormous sinkhole opens up in front of their restaurant, making it nearly impossible to attract business. Now, one night while climbing into the sinkhole to prove her bravery, youngest daughter Louise finds a skeleton that proves to be that of Cotton Candy Dan, a carny who disappeared 6 years earlier. That discovery leads to the kids getting involved in the investigation of who really killed Dan and why. Now, along the way, there are also plots involving Tina trying to attract a summer boyfriend and Gene trying to reform his itty-bitty-ditty committee band. On top of all that, Bob and Linda, with the help of their friend Teddy, build a burger cart and try to attract business on the street, since their restaurant is so difficult to physically get to. At the heart of this movie is a group of very charming, very likable characters, but in my mind here, they are weighed down with too much plot, particularly the murder investigation, which is too convoluted and seems to have no real connection to whether or not Bob and Linda will be able to keep their restaurant open. I also found, Mr. Rabbit, there's a very kinetic rhythm to the action and the dialogue in this movie that, for me, I just found too hyper and too exhausting. That might work for a 22-minute sitcom, but for a movie, I found it ultimately annoying. Now, like Top Gun, I haven't seen a lot of Bob's Burgers, so maybe this movie will play better to fans of the sitcom, but to someone largely unfamiliar to the series, there wasn't much for me to tempt me to dig further into the show. For me, the Bob's Burger movie is, wait for it, undercooked.
I feel like this movie was like a lot of the TV show to movie transfers, The Simpsons movie, blah, blah. Kind of standard. It's just a huge episode with a bigger budget, better animation, throw in a couple of song and dance numbers to pad it out.
Is the animation better than the series?
It is. Okay. It's a little crisper. You have a huge comedic voice cast.
Yeah.
I mean, you dig in there, it's just names on names on names of people doing minor characters and stuff.
Sarah Silverman.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't try to do anything more than what it is, I felt. It just felt like a really long episode.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of subplots going on. It isn't groundbreaking. I love the character of Gene. Like, this is one of my favorite animated shows, has been since it came on. The character of Gene makes me laugh constantly. I love that basically everyone is frazzling Bob. He's trying to balance both home life, work life, everything's falling apart in basically every episode, and everyone seems to be trying to sabotage him at some point.
Yeah, I really enjoy Bob and Linda, but we spent more time with the kids.
Right, and that's kind of the way most of the episodes are as well, because the comedy is in the kids, and Bob being like, and I like that. He also provides some levity. I don't know. It's fine. It's fun. If you enjoy this series, you'll enjoy this. There's nothing new. They don't mess around with the animation.
Right.
It's pretty much standard. I don't know that it needed to be a theatrical movie. It just felt like a 3-week.
It's not the kind of thing, unlike Top Gun, you don't need to see this on the big screen, is what you're saying.
I don't think so.
Okay.
No, it's pretty standard. It's fine.
Yeah,
if you enjoy it, you'll enjoy this.
I enjoyed the Teddy character, and I just felt like that murder investigation I just didn't really care about.
I understand.
Okay.
Let's get out our scores on this one. What did you give the Bob's Burgers movie?
I believe I gave it 2 stars, Mr. Riley.
Oh, all right. Well,
2 stars.
2 star. It's a 2-star movie to you. Yeah, I gave it 3.5. I enjoy the show.
3.5?
Yeah, I enjoy the show.
Wow.
I enjoy the movie. It's exactly what it should have been. I just don't know why it needed to be in theaters, especially against Top Gun. But hey, that's great. If you like the show, wait for it to come streaming, I guess. Go see Top Gun 3 more times.
There you go.
Let's move on to our streaming spotlight, where I have an animated show.
You do?
Similar to Top Gun, to show something that was successful that has been brought back all these years later.
Like a theme to this episode.
Lovable characters.
Yeah.
Yes. I turned to Disney Plus for Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers. This is directed by Akiva Schaffer, one of the Lonely Island guys.
Yes, he is.
And stars voice cast of Andy Samberg as Dale and John Mulaney as Chip. I mean, these are two big SNL comedic actors. Chip and Dale, the lovable chipmunks from the Rescue Rangers, a staple of after-school programming from the Disney block of the 1990s. In this movie, since their show has been canceled, all four of the characters of Chip and Dale, Monterey Jack and Gadget have all gone their separate ways. Dale is the goofball of the group in the Magnum PI shirt. He let success give him a big head, which is partially what led to the falling out amongst all of them. He's gone out. He's gotten a radical procedure to turn him from the standard hand-drawn animated chipmunk into something akin to what you see in Alvin and the Chipmunks. It's kind of creepy.
He very much looks like a character out of that movie.
Yeah, very much. And they even call that out at one point.
Right.
Dale tracks down Chip to help him find their old pal Monterey Jack. When Monterey Jack goes missing, they begin to suspect that it might be old Sweet Pete who's behind it. Sweet Pete is your classic animated Disney Peter Pan character who has grown up, grizzled. He's an angry man voiced by Will Arnett. And he's resorted to stealing cartoon characters and altering them in order to remake famous cartoons without violating Disney trademarks. And it's some real diabolical stuff. You see Sweet Pete right there. Yeah. He's assisted by some odd characters. He's got a few characters voiced by Seth Rogen. One is this Viking warrior you see here who's almost like a non-playable character in a video game.
That's not an actual character from the Polar Express, is it? Or is it?
I didn't know if that was Polar Express or like the Coca-Cola polar bear because he's wearing a red, I don't know.
Yeah, okay.
But meanwhile, there's also real life cops on the case too. A cop named Ellie, played by Kiki Lane, who is an actual human character, and her boss, Captain Putty, which is basically a Gumby character voiced by J.K. Simmons. They are on the case as well. But it's Chip and Dale's story to kind of work out their differences that caused them to become estranged in the past, while also using some of what they learned and from all those episodes of Rescue Rangers to try and crack this case. And I was a huge fan of the Disney animated block back in the day after school, watching Darkwing Duck and Tailspin and Rescue Rangers. I loved all these, watching them every day. And this kind of really recaptured a lot of that for me.
How old were you at this time?
Middle school.
Okay.
You know, come home 4 o'clock, it'd be starting up.
So I'm a little bit older than you.
Right. This is where our slight age difference comes into play, I think, because you're in college at that point, probably.
College?
Well, I'm in middle school. You're 5 years older than me.
What year are we talking about? Like 80?
No, this was like 91.
Oh yeah, I was in college.
There you go.
Oof.
I know how old you are. But it's kind of, this movie mixes animation styles, kind of like Roger Rabbit, where you have hand-drawn animation, there's 3D animation, real-life characters, and it seems like the Lonely Island guys had a lot of fun just gathering animated characters and playing with them from the Disney universe and throwing things in left and right, making fun jokes. You have a joke of Ugly Sonic, the original Sonic character that was rejected for his human teeth. They make him a funny character, which I feel might date this movie. But I know you didn't watch Rescue Rangers. I know that wasn't your thing as a college man out and about
I'm 7
town.
years old. Come on.
Yeah, okay.
I was watching the Mickey Mouse Club.
But you watch Rescue Rangers here. What do you think of this?
So I was pretty, I was sort of hesitant to get into this movie because, it's a chip.
No ties to it.
Right, exactly. I was really surprised at how much I enjoyed this movie. I mean, I unlike the Bob's Burger movie, I thought this movie had a really strong plot that was really creatively thought out, and the idea of these characters getting slightly altered and then bootlegged to other countries.
It's really funny. I
mean, we see Flounder, getting picked up and transposed onto this box of like I don't remember what they called the movie.
But it's basically all those bootlegs where you see it's like we've got to make it slightly different, but try and trick the grandmas. You're like, you like Little Mermaid? I got the girl who's a
This is like the
fish
Little
girl.
Mermaid too. It's just like it. But yeah. So I thought the plot was really well done. We see bootleg versions of like Winnie the Pooh and The Simpsons, and that was all really I thought very funny. And this is a movie that really rewards you for paying attention because there is a lot going on in the canvas of this movie.
On the billboards.
Exactly. There's like Batman versus E.T. and there's buttheads running for, you see a park bench with, vote for butthead running for something.
Filled every inch of the screen.
Yeah, so I just thought that it was really well done, and there was just a lot to sink your teeth into. I think, and I applaud Disney for sort of having the the cojones to sort of make fun of some of their stock characters.
That's not what they do.
Yeah, that's normally not what they do. I mean, to have this character, Sweet Pete, who's this, fat, balding, unshaven, old Peter Pan character.
Yeah.
I mean, I could see a child stumbling across this movie and sort of, having the...
I'm terrified of Peter Pan.
Yeah, exactly. Having this whole image that Disney has worked so hard to send out for decades, just sort of altered. So that was really good. I thought Seth Rogen was very funny as this that Viking dwarf character who never quite can look you in the eye as he's talking to you. He just kind of looks off in the distance. So maybe the movie's a little bit, it's like an hour and 40 minutes. Maybe it could have been trimmed a little bit, but I had a good time with it. I enjoyed it.
I like how they made, they make fun of the knockoff movies, the obsession that Hollywood has with reboots.
Yeah.
Like they put little digs in there, a lot
just the idea of Dale being the CGI three-dimensional character and Chip just being this 2D, I thought was really creative.
A lot of fun.
And I figured at the end we'd have this thing where Chip does this thing and, not to give anything away.
Yeah,
but,
it's a Chip and Dale movie.
He stays himself,
Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Ah, remarkable. All right, so what did old Jeff Robbins give the Chip and Dale movie?
I think I gave it 3 stars, Mr. Rabbit.
There you go. That's a good time. I gave this one 3.5 stars again.
Yeah,
it's an enjoyable film.
I was tempted to give it 3.5.
Yeah, and if you have any nostalgia for the old show, it's great because they play on old episodes. You see old Fat Cat out there and stuff. It's a fun time.
Right. I mean, they draw on old episodes to figure out what they're going to do in this new situation that they're in. Yeah.
Had me singing the theme.
Yeah, it's a good time.
All right, let's move on to our final film on our streaming spotlight. We have a documentary that we saw. What are you talking about here?
Well, Mr. Rabbit, from directors Judd Apatow and Michael Bonfiglio comes George Carlin's American Dream. This is a 2-part documentary over there on the HBO Max about the late comedian who died in 2008 of heart failure. Part 1 of the documentary is largely chronological as we follow Carlin from his childhood through his beginnings as a very mainstream comedian, first with partner Jack Burns and then out on his own. As the 1960s becomes more and more turbulent and politically tempestuous, Carlin realizes that his act is serving the middle-aged segment of his population that he doesn't necessarily politically agree with. So he grows his hair, grows a beard, and becomes the counterculture comedian of 7 words you can't say on television.
Let's list those off.
Can't do that here.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
You can't say them on television.
We're careful, the slime's coming down.
Part 2 of the documentary largely covers Carlin's second evolution, or perhaps even his third evolution, from a lighter, though profane, more observational style of humor to the darker, angrier takes on politics, religion, and human behavior of his later HBO specials. Now, this documentary made, as I said, by Judd Apatow. Before this, he made the Zen Diaries of Gary Shandling, and this documentary shares a lot of similarities with that film. I think the problem here is that even though Carlin was a better stand-up comedian than Shandling, Shandling had arguably a more troubled personal and business life, and I think inarguably had the more interesting artistic output of the two, having not only mastered stand-up, but having created 2 groundbreaking TV shows. It just seemed to me that there was more to the Shandling story that leaves this Carlin doc feeling bloated and overlong. Take out all the stuff about his wife's alcoholism, which I frankly didn't care that much about, and I think you'd have a better film. As it is, it's entertaining. Given all the Carlin clips, it would almost have to be, but I don't think it's quite as good as George deserves.
See, for me, I don't disagree that it's overlong and you could trim some things out of here. For me, I feel the difference is I didn't know really anything about young Carlin, so that first episode of it was really me learning a lot about the young George Carlin, him trying to make his way. I'm looking at him going, hey, guy looks like Armie Hammer when he was young. Like a striking young man.
Yeah, suit and tie, short hair. And
so
he's on like the Ed Sullivan Show.
I was really learning a lot about, as there's kind of setting the base of the foundation of the man. So then when you do see the aha moment, where he's out there with Lenny Bruce and a young Richard Pryor, and then the aha moment that cocaine and LSD brought him, Like, oh, now we're becoming the Carlin that I'm familiar with.
Right.
So I felt like I learned a lot, whereas the Shandling one, I felt like I knew more of his backstory.
Okay, fair enough.
And it just showing his tireless work ethic, and just probably to the detriment of his life and his marriage and everything else. It's like, I can't not be on the road. I can't not be out there doing things.
Even when his wife is diagnosed with cancer, he's out on the road.
All right, well, but I got to go.
Yeah.
And I like that the first part was Carlin, a lot of it was Carlin explaining himself, because it's a lot of interviews and things with him actually talking. The second one was more talking heads. And I mean, they get the who's who of comedians talking about George Carlin.
Yeah, but I mean, they've got Chris Rock and they've got Jerry Seinfeld, but they didn't really work with him. I mean, they didn't really know him.
Yeah.
Like in the Shandling thing, you've got a lot of his collaborators that...
Unfortunately, a lot of his contemporaries aren't around either.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
But like, I didn't know that his inspiration, that he wanted to be Danny Kaye when he grew up. And that was where he was striving. Like, well, that's so, I never would have guessed George Carlin was trying to be Danny Kaye. And so it was enjoyable. Yeah, I think this could have been trimmed down into a nice 2-hour documentary.
Were you interested in, and there's a lot of, I mean, Kelly Carlin, his daughter, is one of the executive producers of this, and she's in the movie a lot. She talks a lot about her parents' marriage. Yeah. Did you find that stuff interesting, or were you like, let's get back to the career?
No, I did find that interesting, and because it's who the man is, and I appreciate when they show the flaws of people, and they don't just try and deify him because he's gone now, and what a great, he was amazing, and it made me also realize, boy, we could really use George Carlin right now. Yeah. In the climate of the world right now, we could use a George Carlin. But yeah, I did, because it did help flesh out who the man was.
It didn't show the flaws of him as much as it showed the flaws of his wife.
Well, it still did his, though, in how he reacted to things. And it showed how angry he got. And how, I mean, for me, as a fan of his, I did start to fall off of his comedy towards the end. It was like, this guy's just angry man yelling at a cloud right now. You know?
That's what Colbert says in the movie. It's like, he lost me at a certain point.
Yeah, and I kind of echoed that. But it's still enjoyable.
No, I enjoyed it. And I think that I guess one of the issues I had with the amount of time spent on his wife is that Carlin was not Bill Cosby in the sense that he didn't bring his family into his comedy.
Right.
That was a totally separate thing.
True.
So it wasn't as necessary to the story of who he was, which ultimately I was the most interested in.
So I feel it kind of is a little self-indulgent from the family who's behind this?
A little bit.
Like, let's put a little more.
I think there's two stories here, and I would have preferred that they would have just talked about Carlin and his comedy. I thought the end of this first half, when he is on like the Perry Como special, and Welcome Back, Kotter, I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah,
too.
it was.
I think the first, I think the first part was probably better, but overall, I thought, I think it's worth seeing.
Absolutely, it's over on where's this? HBO Max. Correct?
Sure.
HBO Max. All right, George Carlin's American Dream gets what from? Let's go to the tote board.
I think I gave it 3 stars.
That's what it looks like. 3 stars. I enjoyed it. I gave it 4.5.
Wow.
Yeah, I did.
You're very generous this week.
Okay. Hey, it's summertime. Let's have some fun. Yeah, I gave it 4.5. It's enjoyable. It made me appreciate George Carlin in a way that I hadn't in a long time. So
fair enough.
All right, let's take a look ahead at what is coming soon. I'm looking at the weekend of June 10th. We have a film on Netflix and selected theaters called Hustle. This is Adam Sandler's new movie. Robert Duvall, Ben Foster, Jaleel White. That's Urkel.
Nice.
He stars as a washed-up basketball scout who discovers a phenomenal street ball player and sees him as his opportunity to get back into the NBA. This is coming out actually June 8th on Netflix, and oddly enough is showing here at the Palace, the only theater in the area that's showing it in the theater. Kind of interesting. But then everything in the theater comes to a halt because we have the next summer blockbuster, June 10th. That is Jurassic World Dominion. 4 years later, after the events of the last Jurassic Park film, dinosaurs are now roaming alongside humans, and I don't know if they can coexist, but we're going to find out alongside Chris Pratt, Bryce Dallas Howard, Laura Dern, Sam Neill, Jeff Goldblum. The whole gang is here.
Nice.
To try and befriend or take down these dinosaurs. So that's all coming soon. Before we go any further, though, I want to thank our sponsor, Marcus Theaters, the Palace here in Sun Prairie. Aforementioned, they are so great. They're waiting for you. Put your flight pin on and come on in and watch some Top Gun bike, because that's a good time. The Palace has dream loungers, and they are oh so comfy. So thank you for sponsoring the program. Next week, I'm going to be talking about films like David Cronenberg's Crimes of the Future, a Romanian thriller called The Watcher, and a comedy on Hulu called Fire Island, among other things. So you want to stay tuned for all of that. Sir, thank you once again for bringing your expertise and your knowledge and all of that stuff to this program. You class it up a little bit when you show up.
You're the real Maverick.
You can always be my wingman.
There you go.
All right, let's get out of here. So until next week, I'm Jamison.
I'm Rooster.
Have a good one.